put it all together and find a way to win a game this week. As I look at Fresno and studied them a little bit for the past week, late last week and then into this week, offensively, Virgil's a kid that is a dual threat guy, can hurt you with his legs. They got 3 receivers over 400 yards. So they're spreading the ball out a little bit out there on the perimeter. Seven's a big guy. He's tall, long, really, really looks the part. The other 2 guys are very, very productive. James, the running back, he's got good numbers. He's big. They rotate a couple other guys in there, some smaller guys that have some good speed. As I look at him defensively, 42, we've played against him. He is big, strong, inside linebacker. Both safeties are tall and have range. The corners have good makeup speed. They got good speed. We always say makeup speed. That gives the illusion they're getting beat, but I think they've got good speed. You see them, whether they're chasing a guy across the field or coming up to make tackles. 25, and then the 2 and 6 that play over on the one side that kind of rotate. They do have that speed, but you look at linebacker and they rotated a bunch of guys in the second half of the San Diego State game. I know 19's out, the bench linebacker, but he's a good player. 56 is strong, comes in. We'd seen him on some tape before, but so it's a good challenge. To me, this week is about Fresno, but it's also about us, and hopefully putting it all together in all 3 phases and finding a way for us to get our first win in the league. So with that, I'll go ahead and open it up.
Were you then in the bye week, Coach? Was there a lot of, was it psychological work on your team as much as physical?
Yeah.
Do you think in some ways?
I think whether you're 0-3 or you're 3-0, you're always working on the mind, and you're always working on our team. So yeah, absolutely, both.
You probably had time to analyze. You said you were going to analyze things a little bit. How is Myers playing? What does he have to do a little bit better to score a few more points? We were shut out in the second half.
Yeah, I'm not so sure it's what Kent has to do for us to score points. Probably more in terms, Steve, of what do we have to do to score more points. Because I think we've played good on offense, but it's not been good enough to be the difference in winning games. And so you always try to look at it through those eyes. Was the offense good enough to just flat out win? And to score more points is not just on Kent. It's on all of us as we're putting it together. But in terms of analyzing Kent's game, I think he's been very stingy with the ball. I think he's made good decisions. I think we can improve our deep ball throwing. Hopefully we can, we worked on that a little bit last week. Hopefully we can throw and catch them a little bit better, which is not just him. It's releases at the line of scrimmage. It's protection when throws are open down the field and having better protection. And it's him throwing on rhythm and on time and more air, less air, those kind of things. That's the biggest thing that I would like to see improved in terms of that. But when you look at it as a broad picture, what can we do to score more points, it's more involved than Kent.
So fans going in, especially going into the bye week, I've already asked you, but changes. I think fans expect to see changes. What changes can they maybe see on Saturday? Do you expect?
What changes would they expect to see?
Just changes. If you're 0-3 in the conference, maybe they just expect something to change. Maybe personnel changes and different things.
I've been watching tape of the '85 Sooners, so I got Jamel Holloway, and we're going to go with that. You're not going to make major changes. If all those fans could text me, I'm sure they'll Twitter me. I'd ignore that stuff now because everybody's got all the answers when you're 0-3.
Right.
But to me, you got to look at the body of work too. You got 3 games where, you go back and you look at all of them, and you go into Air Force, and you're like, man, it could have been 14-3 right there with the calls. And then the Boise, we've already hashed all that out with the kick right before halftime, and then the opening 2 series of the third quarter. And then I think we hashed out Colorado State at the end of the third quarter, and we did have drives that we didn't finish drives. So just because you don't finish a couple drives in a couple games, and you're a touchdown loss 2 games, and you're a 10-point loss in the other game, I don't think that. I think that's. Is there some changes that can be made? Yeah. But I think they're tweaks. I don't think they're wholesale changes. I'd be up in the night for a coach to do that right now at this point in the season, unless there were major, major issues, and unless somebody wants to prove that or ask that to me, they're losses. But I mean, you can't just change. I mean, we're not going to go to all of a sudden to 2-back or go empty all day, or go to the triple like I was just teasing.
Right.
I mean, so I think we got to be careful of changes. When you say changes, because changes entail we're all of a sudden going to go to double eagle package on defense or 4-3 Tampa 2 team, that's not happening.
But in a bye week with the time, you do look at some of those things to think that,
Yeah.
hey, maybe we are.
Yeah, but
better at doing
I
this,
think
right?
I think I want to go back to your question and say fans want changes. Oh, really? I mean, they want to win.
Right.
Well, there ain't no bigger fan of Utah State football than Matt Wells, and I want to win too. So whether it's changes in the bye week, when we go back and we look at tweaks or doing things, more things we do better, less things we don't do as well, things to maybe we've done this in this situation quite a bit, so let's play off of it. That's what self-scouts are for. And so we've always tried to do that. We always try to do that. We try to get healthy and practice a few things and get the young players some work and recruit. That's what bye week's about.
Kind of to the untrained eye, I thought your secondary has been a strength, but for the first time against Colorado State, I thought they didn't play very well as a group. Mm-hmm. What did you see, and what do you look at there as far as any possible tweaks?
I think the biggest thing is that, you look at the secondary I thought they'd played well for several weeks from Arkansas State and then Air Force and Boise and played pretty well. Gave up some throws, really, and some underneath man coverage where we just lost eyes and we lost technique maybe a little bit. And a lot of those were either man free or 2-man where we're playing man underneath, and we just got beat. And we got, I think that's, some technique and some concentration and just a little bit better play. But again, I don't think you're going to wholesale change the people at this point. We're going to still play the same 3 to 4 corners that we've been playing, and I just think we got beat.
Devontae Mays, can you get him back, or does the week help? This bye week?
Bye week helps everybody.
Yeah. Is he more healthy? Is he
Yeah,
closer to playing?
I ain't a doctor, but yeah, I mean, everybody's more healthy. Everybody's healthier, more healthy. That ain't the right. Listen to me, I'm fumbling. I'm trying to be better on my grammar. Yeah, I mean, everybody's healthier, Al, from this week, and the bye week always helps that, So, obviously one of our better players, and we'll see if we get him back this week or not. So.
We didn't. Was there anybody in the Colorado State game who got hurt that's going to be out for a while?
Nothing from a major standpoint.
I don't think it was. It didn't seem like it.
No. I mean, or nothing, from an extended standpoint. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's in Fresno State situation, their defense, it was weird to watch the San Diego State game because they didn't really get steamrolled. I mean, Pumphrey had 220 yards, and they didn't really give up anything else almost in the game. I'll tell you what
they did is they got stingy at the goal line. Mm-hmm. They got stingy in the red zone. San Diego State moved it at will running the ball for a decent amount of that game, and then I thought they played really good with their backs against the wall. That first drive, big time. So, yeah, they got their yards. Pumphrey's a tremendous back. I mean, he's done that to everybody they've played. He's done that to everybody his whole career. If you look at career FBS stats, which I did have a chance to see, I saw a graphic on one of the games this weekend, and I said, "Yep, there's Pumphrey," and he's done that to everybody. And he's certainly a good back. But when it came time to score him points, I thought the defense, Fresno's guys, they stoned up. They held a wall and did a nice job when their backs against the wall.
Well, because statistically, I think they're almost last in the country in rushing defense. Only against Sacramento State have they stopped anybody really on the ground. Fresno State struggled with that all year.
Well, it's you look at the game against San Diego State, and that's what San Diego State's going to do. They're going to run the ball, and they got in 22 personnel or 13 personnel. I guess I'd 22 or 13, however you count the fullback, tight end, or whatever you want to count him as. And ran it down there. But again, I thought they played pretty good in the red zone.
But Toledo did it to them. Nevada, I mean, everybody's got Vegas. They've all had big rushing games against Fresno State's defense. Mm-hmm. Does it mean that they're good against the pass? Or, I mean, you talk about their corners and different things. Are they a better pass defensive team than a rush defensive team?
I do think they put pressure on the passer and they're good in the back end. And I think those guys have man cover skills. Their field outside linebacker number 7's a really, really good athlete, and they put him out in coverage. And so I think they do a good job in the passing game.
Not to downplay what Lindsey has done for you, given probably a bigger role than everybody thought, but what does a team miss when they don't have a running back like Mays? Specifically, what does Utah State miss when they don't have Mays?
Well, he was certainly our best running back, or he wouldn't have started and came out of training camp, spring ball and training camp as the starter. But I think TJ's done a really nice job. He's run better between the tackles than I think he gets credit for. I think he's played tough. He's put one on the ground and was so upset. I thought he ran even harder when he got back in the game. But I think Tony has really done a nice job of running behind his pads, again, in between the tackles, because you think of him as a little bit more of a perimeter back. But he's done a nice job with that. Certainly, your initial comments are right on about Devontae. I mean, he's a good player. We just haven't had him since USC. So I'm not sure what 2016's like with Devontae Mays, because we haven't had him. We've had him for one game, really.
You have a few former assistants at Fresno State. Does that change anything as far as how you make the calls, anything like that, or have they all changed? We saw it at Boise State. One of the reasons why I asked that is because Boise State had a big towel and they were covering up their signals, and you see that quite a bit more.
There's a lot more that goes into guessing than there is in reality.
Yeah.
So from a fan's perspective and from a coach's perspective, I think we have certainly played former assistant coaches. We've played guys down at BYU. We played guys down at Utah. And we've had guys on our staff that have gone against the teams that they've been with. And so I'm going to tell you what it's going to come down to is the 22 guys on the field. Because there's times where people know what's coming because you're predictable. You have tendencies, and you still can't stop it because it comes down to the players. And now, you do things on offense and defense to try to get away from those tendencies, but I also know this: if you're really good at something, keep doing it. Maybe change a little bit of how you do it and all this stuff, but it's going to come down to the kids executing. Going against guys that have coached with us for a certain amount of time, I don't think that'll have anything to do with playing the game. I don't.
That's a little overrated.
I do. Yeah, I do think so. We certainly had two guys at Weber State, that used to signal for us if we were all being pretty transparent, and so, from a signaling standpoint, I think you're careful, you're smart with it and you understand, but things have changed since they've left, and a lot of it's still the same, and a decent amount has changed, with including how we present it to the players.
Looked like Coach Weber changed their offensive line, or they did a couple of weeks ago, and it looks like it's got them. They had a better running game, for instance, against Nevada, for sure.
I mean, I've noticed several positional shakeups that they've had over the last few weeks.
And then Coach Unger, I noticed their coverage